What's up, everyone? This is Tia Kirby. Welcome back to another episode of Heart of the Matter. Today, we are getting to the Heart of the Matter with Navarette Savage. If you are unfamiliar with Heart of the Matter, well, let me fill you in. This is a platform where we get past the facade of social media and I got it all together. This is really a platform to allow people to share their stories, talk about topics that are taboo and not so social media friendly, and allow you to create community, to connect, find your story in someone else's, and allow you to realize that you can make it literally through anything. This will probably be the most in-depth, impactful story that I've had on Heart of the Matter to date. I'm super excited about it, but let me warn you now, go ahead and get your tissues. With all of that said, let's get into Elizabeth's story. Welcome back, and if you are just joining us, we are getting to the Heart of the Matter with Navarette Savage. She is the CEO and founder of S.T.A.N.D Organization, and we are wearing our Domestic Violence Month t-shirts. I'm going to leave all of the information in the link below, but it says I am one dope chick. These are made by House of Swag, and we are celebrating and creating awareness about domestic violence month. So I wanted to make sure we showed you that before we get into her story. But with all of that said, I'm going to allow Liz to introduce herself and tell you about her journey. Be ready.
Hi, everybody. I'm Navarette Savage. I am the founder of Stand Together Against Nationwide Domestic Violence. We are located in Arlington, Texas. We go by STAN, it's shorter. Our organization provides help to victims of domestic violence, from women, children, and men. When they move out of the shelter, we help them with furniture, we help them with clothes, interviews, help them how to build their own resumes, get them prepared for a job interview with clothes, anything that they may need. But we also have a program called Born with a Purpose. This program caters to the age of 6 to 18 teens. The reason why we created this program is because we want to stop the cycle of domestic violence from being an abuser or becoming a victim. So our program is a mentor program where volunteers can come in and they partner up with one youth from the shelter, and they help them to walk in a positive road to graduate and go off to college and not become an abuser or a victim.
So I want you to share your story, of course, because it is like amazingly powerful. Just the power that she has about her journey, and I don't know how she's alive and sane and well, but you'll see why. So if you don't mind, if you'll share your journey with us.
Sure. Well, I was once a victim of domestic violence. I met my high school sweetheart my freshman year, and he was a sophomore. A popular dude, well-liked. Girls were crazy about him. Football player, track runner at the time. Everything was great when we met. We dated that first year. And then the second year that we were dating, because we broke up during the summertime, and we got back together. I was a sophomore, he was a junior. And 3 months, 4 months into it, he started to tell me I'm hanging around with my friends too much. I need to, spend more time with him. And I'm thinking, oh, he just wants to spend time with me, not knowing that was signs of control. I didn't know nothing about teen dating abuse, because my father taught me different, that a man should respect a woman. So when this happened, I didn't know. I just thought it was just cute that he wanted to spend time with me. Forward, we graduated. I got pregnant my senior year from him, and he already had graduated. So we had a daughter, and right after that, he was like, well, since you already have a kid by me, you might as well marry me. So I was like, he's probably right. That's the way it's supposed to be. And so I ended up marrying him. The controlling and the mental abuse was already happening in high school. I did not know, like I said, what it was. I was just like, well, maybe it's something wrong with me. Maybe I started questioning who I was, even though I already knew who I was going into high school. But then when somebody that's supposed to like you and protect you starts telling you, well, you're worthless and, you're dumb, and you start to believe like, well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was. You're doing too much, and you start to, like, well, maybe I am. And so we got married right out of high school. And I was about 2 months pregnant with our second child. My oldest child was already 9 months. It's when he first hit me. I had caught him cheating. So because I was not supposed to be there, it was my fault that he was caught cheating. So I was coming down the stairs and he came right behind me. He grabbed me by my hairs and then he just threw me as hard as he could. Wow. And I landed trying to protect my unborn child. I landed like on my knees, like my knees first and then my elbows. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe he just did that. Because you're like, this is the man that's supposed to love me. And he was just saying, well, you shouldn't have came here. It's your fault. And I'm sitting there like, how's it my fault? And I was like, but maybe I should have stayed at home. And I started questioning, making excuses for him. So that's where the abuse started. It started to get worse. Year after year, it was just worse. It started to be where I was dragged across the house. I was pushed against the wall. I was threatened. I had knives pulled on me. He tried to cut my throat. And I was actually pregnant with our third child. I was maybe 6 months or so when he tried to cut my throat. Wow. And this is when he had moved me to California because my parents were starting to question what was going on. And he put the knife to my neck and he's like, I'll cut your throat and leave you here to die. And so as a victim, you start to think, okay, give him power because that's all they want. So I was like, oh, you're right. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have questioned you. Even though I didn't question him, I was like, you're right. I shouldn't have asked. How dumb of me. I was just so dumb. I try to make it where he eased up and released me from having that knife in my neck. He left. I didn't see him for a couple of days. Then we had our son in San Bernardino, California. And I had a C-section with all my children. So I had to have a C-section with him since I already had a C-section. And when we went home, because I worked. I never stopped working because I knew if I didn't work, we wouldn't have a place to stay. We wouldn't have food on the table. And he never worked. He never had a job. And he would take my money. And I'm thinking, well, he's paying the bills. And when I left the hospital, I found out we were homeless because we got kicked out of our home. Oh my gosh. So here I am with a newborn baby and 2 daughters. Where are we going to go?
In California, away from your family.
Away from everybody. So I didn't know anybody, So my father always taught us to put money aside for emergencies. So I had to literally take some out of it. Not a lot because then he would notice some of this. But throughout the years, I would save money, put some money, if it was $5, $10. Mm-hmm. But I had money, a little bit of money put away. And I knew that it was probably going to give us maybe 2 to 3 days at a hotel until we figure out what we're going to do. And so I called my father and I asked him, hey, my mom actually, and I asked her, can you send some money? And she was like, okay, she sent the money and we were able to get a week at a hotel. But after that, we have nowhere to go. But he didn't want to come back to Amarillo. And one of his brother's friends, invited us to come stay over there just for a little while until we got back on our feet. Yeah. So I was just like, I just need to heal and be able to get a job. And so we moved in with her and he left with his brother for a couple of days. So now I have a newborn child. I have 2 daughters. So it was a lot for me. Yeah. And, and I had a C-section. So I'm trying to heal, take care of them and still in pain. And he had came home that day, one day, very drunk. And I had just placed the kids to sleep. And I asked him, nicely, can you, just lower your voice? I just put the kids to sleep. So he got mad because I'm telling him what to do. And so I'm like, no, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, so that we can have that time alone, we can sit down and talk, So I try to switch it, but I was really telling him just, be quiet. But, of course, when he started to get, angry because I'm telling him what to do, because you don't tell an abuser what to do. Yeah. They tell you what to do, but you can't tell them what to do. And so he jumped on top of me and was, choking me. He said, are you trying to tell me what to do? And I'm like, no, I was just, saying, we could spend some time together. And I do remember I have a C-section. So he's on top of me and I'm like, oh my God, this hurts. But, I'm trying to calm him down. So he grabs me by my hair and he throws me on the floor and he starts to kick me.
Oh my God.
So I'm trying to cover my C-section so that he would not open it. And he's kicking me. So he's kicking me on my arm. He's kicking me on my back because I'm trying to move so that he can hit me on my back, but not my, my stomach area. And so he grabs me by my hair and he throws me on the bed. And you will never think that the man that's supposed to protect you from the world, the man that's supposed to pump you up and, make you feel like you just all this, was the man that was destroying you pieces by pieces. My self-esteem was, shattered. I didn't know who I was, who Elizabeth really was. I knew then back in the day, but when I met him, it's like everything was just like erased. It was like, it was like, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who that young girl was growing up. And, but that day, that man, my ex, the man that was supposed to protect me, he raped me. And he laughed at me and said, who's supposed to believe you? And I started thinking, it's true. Who's supposed to believe me? Because I am his wife, so I'm supposed to be with him.
Right.
But I found out now that no, when you say no, no matter what, it's a no.
Yeah.
And so he left, and that day I conceived. I conceived our fourth child. Of course, I was beat up. I was bleeding. My nose was bleeding. My mouth was bleeding. And my face was swollen when he had punched me. So I had to wait until my face went down. My bruises started to heal. And I called my mom. And I said, Mom, don't ask questions. Just buy me a bus ticket and get me back home to Amarillo. So she already kind of knew, and so we went back to Amarillo, but he had went to the bus station, and he was like, nobody leaves me.
Wow.
So he bought him a bus ticket, and he went with us to Amarillo. And we went to Amarillo. The abuse was worse. I was 7 months pregnant with Angelica when he had, I had paid all the bills, so I was broke. I had, paid everything, the rent, water, gas, electric. So I had no money, and our son, had run out of diapers. So I was looking for him. His brother's ex-wife took me to go find him. She's like, I know where he's at. I saw him at the park. I know where he's at. And so he took me in, and I asked him, will you let me borrow $20 so I can get our son diapers?
Of course, when I ask, how do you borrow $20 from your husband?
Well,
for your child.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if to him, it was like, you have to pay me back.
Wow.
So I asked him, I said, can I borrow $20? But he was with another female. So he felt disrespected because I asked him in front of his female friend. And I was like, but I'm your wife. And when he started to raise his voice, I knew right away, like, you have to hurry up and get in the car and leave, because if not, this is going to be, something. And he caught up to me because I'm pregnant, 7 months pregnant. And we were, there were some houses across the street, and we were at a park. And, he was at a park, and I was walking as fast as I could, and he caught up to me. And because I had lost a lot of weight. I was under a lot of stress with this pregnancy. And he had picked me up. When I say he picked me up, and then he body slammed me. So I landed on my back, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm in pain. I'm fixing to deliver, because I started feeling stomach pains. And his cousin lived across the street. He ran over there. He said, dude, what are you doing? You can't do that. So he told his cousin, oh, that must be your baby.
Are you
and
kidding?
His cousin was like, no, but I'm just not going to allow you to. She's pregnant. And so they got into an argument, and I got in the car hurting. And I did end up in the hospital, but I did not give birth. When they asked me, because they seen a bruise on my back, what had happened, I told them I had failed. And as victims, you make excuses for them. It's because you're either afraid, and I was afraid. I was afraid of my life because I knew what he was capable of doing. I mean, here I am, knives to my neck. He tried to run over me, did a lot of things. So of course, fear took over my life. And so that's why I made excuses, because I knew if I said anything, and he will always tell me, if anybody says anything to me about it, it's your fault if they get hurt. And so I felt like I had to protect anybody, even strangers that asked me what happened. I felt like I have to protect them, because if not, he's going to come and get them, And so in 1994, I had came home from work, and he was angry about something that happened with his brother, with somebody. I don't know. It was something that happened, and he was already angry. So when I got home, I tried to make it as peaceful as I could, and it did not work. He came coming at me, and he had grabbed me by my hair, and he threw me against the wall, and he starts to punch me. For the very first time ever, I started hitting him back. It's kind of got a little strength of something that I started hitting him back. So he starts laughing. He said, the more you hit me, the harder I'm going to hit you. It did hurt because he was hitting very hard. And so I like my nose, my mouth started bleeding. My ear was, throbbing where he had punched me in my ear. And he grabbed me by my hair and he threw me on the ground. And he jumped on top of me, pinning my two hands underneath him. Oh my God. So I couldn't fight him back. So I was like, he's stronger than me. This is it, so what am I going to do? Because he was steady punching me. So I was like, okay, I'm either going to have to turn my face one way, or I don't know, because this is it. He's going to kill me. Either he's going to kill me or he's going to mess me up pretty bad where I won't be able to go to work. But I went to work because I needed to provide a home for my children. Right. I didn't want to be homeless. And so that was my thinking, like I have to protect myself because, my job knew that he abused me. They knew they didn't like him. They're like, he's not allowed up here. He cannot come up here because he tried to come up there one time and they told him, you're not allowed up here. You cannot come up here. We'll call the police. So I turned my face so that he can just mess this side of the face up. So he was just punching. So my eyes started shutting because my face started swelling up. And my mouth is bleeding. My nose is bleeding. I could feel it just coming down. So the next thing I know, I heard him scream. And I was like, okay, so I'm trying to get myself because he let me go. And so I'm scooting myself away from him and I'm cleaning my blood so I can see, but this eye's already shut. So I can only see from this eye. And he said, your blank, blank baby bit me. Now, do recall this is his baby. And he called Mercedes out of her name. That's my 4-year-old. And he grabbed her by her hair. Her hair was actually curly like yours. Wow. And he grabbed her and he threw her across the room. That's when I knew then, you have to leave.
And she was 4.
She was 4 years old. And she was crying.
At one point, you were hiding out at a friend's house. Mm-hmm. And he actually threatened to set their house on fire. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The day that he hit me was in December. I left with the kids to stay with my best friend, Margie, and her daughters were there that day. And he had came over there because he knows that because we worked together, so he knew our shift. And he knew that she was not there, so he came to her house and he told me he was knocking. And so I called her and I said, he's at the door. And she's like, don't open it. Just call the police. Don't open it. So he starts to yell at me and says, if you don't leave now, I will burn this house down when you least expect it. And so I started thinking, I said, oh my gosh, she has 2 young girls, 2 boys. I'm like, are you, I can't do this, So I told her I have to go. She begged me not to leave, but I was like, I cannot have your lives in my hand. I just cannot do it. So I went back. And so I left. Then weeks later, I left again. And then 2 weeks later after that, the incident happened.
It was a one-alarm fire, minor in scale, devastating in impact. A woman who police say is the children's mother arrives to hear the worst. One of her children is dead.
From what we've been able to determine right now, apartment at the time the fire started.
Firefighters tried to resuscitate the children in the January snow. The other 3 transported to Northwest Texas Hospital in critical condition. Another child died on the way. A team made up of Special Crimes, Amarillo Police and Fire, and the Department of Human Services now begins a painful investigation to see just what happened here this afternoon, and perhaps how it could have been avoided. One thing can't be changed. The deadly flames extinguished 2 lives today before firefighters could put out the blaze. Brett Hawkins, Pro News.
Amarillo firefighters went through all of 1994 with only one fatal fire. and they were hoping 1995 would be the first year in the last 15 to go without a single loss of life. But that came to a tragic end yesterday afternoon when 4-year-old Mercedes Smith and her 8-month-old sister Angelica became the second and third deaths caused by fire in Amarillo in only the last 10 days. Jessie Rachel lives in the apartment just above the Smith family and was the first one to notice that something was wrong.
Yeah, I was real scared. I mean, I knew that she had a little tiny baby in there along with those other four or three. There was three.
For now, all hopes of the Smith family lie with 3-year-old Marcella and 18-month-old Robert Jr., who both remain in critical condition at Northwest Texas Hospital. Dusty Green, Pro News.
And on January 5th, 1995, there's a fire that had actually happened at his home, and he's coming out with two of the girls. And so I asked him what happened. He said he didn't know. So I run in there not knowing if it's the fire had stopped or, the smoke inhalation. I wasn't caring. There was two of my kids missing. So when I ran in there, a firefighter stopped me, and he asked me that he told me I couldn't be in there. So I told him, there was two kids missing. So he yells to the other firefighters that there's two kids missing. So of course they started looking for them. He brings me out. They had Mercedes and Marcella on a blanket on top of a snow because it was the first day that it had really snowed in Amarillo. And they had them laid them down on a blanket, giving them CPR. And another firefighter had my son, but my 7-month-old was still missing. I don't know how long it took, but a police officer came and got me. And he asked me, was I the mother of the children? And I said, yes. And so he brought me around an ambulance, and firefighter had my 7-month-old baby wrapped in a yellow bag. It was a plastic bag. And he told me that she had passed away. And so I'd asked the officer if I could hold her. And he said because of the incident was under investigation, they couldn't allow me to hold her. But I told him if that was your child and the last time you holding her, wouldn't you want to hold her? And so I was crying. I was begging him. And they finally said, let her hold her child. And so the firefighter handed my child to me, Angelica. And he told me not to unwrap her. He recommended that I left her wrapped, and so of course I unwrapped her, and my child was, even though she was mixed, she was my color. And when I unwrapped her, her little lips were melted. She was dark. She was burnt. And so they took her, and I knew that she was, gone. So the next thing I know, I'm at somebody's house. I don't know if I might have lost it, but I ended up at somebody's house, and my mom showed up, and we went to the hospital. And that's when they told me my second child, Mercedes, had passed away on the way to the hospital. And so they had my son, Robert, and Marcella in ICU. And they said that Marcella was more and critical than my son was. And so I said, okay, it would be a miracle if she made it, even overnight, just because she was dependent on everything, and she wasn't doing everything. Her lungs had collapsed. And so they were just like, this is a miracle if she makes it another 24 hours. And so my son had heart damage from the smoke inhalation. So the doctors were like, he's going to have to be transferred to another state where better medical doctors for heart. And so they're like, I have to start planning what you want to do, who's going to go first, who's going to go with him. And so as we planning everything, they're supposed to have picked him up in January the 7th. And my mom was like, well, I'll go, to make sure that everything's done. You stay here with Marcella, and I'll go because their dad decided to go with him. So I was like, I'll go there, make sure that he doesn't do anything, silly or anything. And so her aunt was like, well, I'll go with you and support you. So on January the 7th, they were preparing my son to leave. And we were in a room. It was a real small room. And it was all his family inside the room. And of course, all my family was outside in the waiting area because we had, all my family, it was too many of them. And so I was sitting in a chair by the door. My mom was leaning against the door, and she was just, rubbing my hair. And her aunt was behind her, hugging her. That's supposed to have gone with her. And laid, with her head laid on her back, and they were just, crying and stuff. And a firefighter showed up, and he said that all the firefighters had collected money, so they put it in a check. And he said, something that might help you. I don't know if it'll help you with anything, but just something. To this day, I cannot tell you how much the check was. We deposited into a bank account, and everything was given to my children. But that day, he gave me the check. I folded it up and I gave it to my mom. I said, "Here, use it for the funeral for the other two babies." And she was like, "Well, no, these babies, Robert and Marcella are going to need clothes when they leave because everything burned. We'll just keep it for them. Or when you go down to, Louisiana, then you can, use it for maybe food or whatever." So she put it in her back pocket, not thinking. And the firefighter asked, could he see the kids? And my uncle took him back there. And his mom asked me, how much is the check? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And so she's like, "Well, why does your mom get to hold it?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I told Mom, "Just give it to him." I was like, "No, it's not hers. It's it's the kids." So it's a big ordeal where I guess he forgot where he was at. And because he thought I was talking back at his mom, he stood up and was about to punch me. But at the same time that he's about to punch me, my uncle walks by and sees him. And he's like, "Dude, what are you like?" No. So they get into a big fight. They have to call security. And that's when I knew then, like, this man's never going to change. And it has nothing to do with me. I'm not ever going to change him. I can't change him. Right. This is something he's going to have to really do on his own. Because for you to even raise your hands at me during this time, that just says a lot.
So you had, at that point when the fight took happen, 2 of the kids had passed away.
Yes.
And 1 in critical condition and 1 nearly in critical condition. It's
yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
That's crazy. How old were the kids then?
Mercedes was 4, and Marcella was 3 years old, and little man was 18 months and 7 months. Angelica was 7 months.
Wow. Yeah. We went recently to Amarillo to shoot the cover of her book. So definitely stay tuned for her book.
My mom wanted the funeral just to be us because the funeral was chaos. When you're at the funeral, it's supposed to be the parents, then the grandparents, and then the other family members, and so on. So my mom was supposed to sit right next to me. And when she got there to the funeral, the director's like, your mom is coming and stuff. But there was a nurse that was between me, that she was sitting in the spot that my mom was supposed to sit. And there was a nurse that his mom had actually requested for her, not for me, but for her. And when my mom got there, they asked her to move. And so his mom was like, "No, I need her here." And so he's like, "Well, if you need a nurse, she can stand by the wall, and if you need her, she can come to your need or whatever. But her mom needs to sit there." And so my mom is standing up, and she's just looking at me, and she's crying, because this is a day that we're burying not just 1, not 2, but 3 children, and so when they're going back and forth, my mom yells, she's like, "Oh my God, this is a funeral, people. I just can't." So I grabbed my mother's hand and I said, "Mom, I need you." Sorry. So my mom stood on the floor. She sat on the floor, and they told her she couldn't sit there. So mom goes, "Look, I'm going to sit in the back. And if you need me, just raise your hand and I'll come." So my mom went to the back with my grandmother because she was there. And they also made her sit in the back. So at the funeral, my ex-girlfriend shows up. She's there, and I'm like, okay, I just have no more in me. I just don't have any more in me to even fight, to even worry. Here I am with 3 caskets in front of me, and he's so worried about his girlfriend. So anyway, we go down to the to the graveside, and I remember people pulling over because it was over 500 and something. They say almost close to 600 people that showed up to the funeral. I remember a lot of people being there, but I just, the director was like, "This was the biggest funeral we ever we ever had in Amarillo. But I remember going down to the cemetery, and people were pulled over on the side of the road. Men were out their cars with their hats on their heart. So it really just like, wow, like these people don't even know me, and they give me more respect than my man, my husband beside me. And so we get to the to the cemetery, and people are still pulling in, and we had to start service. So again, my mother's not allowed. That's the picture that I showed you. And my mom is way in the back standing up with my grandmother while, the nurse and his family were the only ones sitting down in the family area. And as we leave, I heard chaos. And the funeral home director was like, just get in the car and I'll take you back to, if you want to go back to the hospital, you want to do, I'll just take it, just get in the car. And so when I get to the hospital, my sister comes and she's all shooken up and crying. So I asked her, what happened? I heard a lot of people yelling and stuff like that. And I heard you yelling. And she's like, your ex, she called him ex because she's like, he's going to be your ex. Your ex got into it with another man. The man asked him to just simply give him the stuff that he took from him, and he won't press charges.
Wow.
And so, because he was a suit that he was wearing that he stole from this man. And so the man said, you just had you have a tragedy happen. I'm not going to press charges. Just give me back my stuff.
And he wore the stolen suit to the funeral.
A red stolen suit. And I guess the man, that's all the man said. My sister said, and the man was about to walk away, but then she said that my ex started like, you don't come at me, da da da. And so they got into it. So they were trying to break it up. And while the guy is trying to take him, push him away, my ex accidentally bumped one of my son's casket, and it almost tipped over. So they were able to catch it. And it's when she was yelling, like, out of all people, you should know better.
Yeah.
And so we didn't see him after that. He did get probation because the man ended up pressing charges. And so he got revoked for his parole violation. So the judge gave him 30 days to turn himself in because he wanted him to be with Marcella just in case. But we didn't see him for those 30 days. We saw him one day before he turned himself in. Wow. He came up to the hospital and was trying to be all, I'm sorry. And I'm like, really? 29 days ago, you should have been here.
Yeah.
Because me and her together.
So, of course, on every episode of Heart of the Matter, I always like to ask a few questions, and feel free to kind of flow and respond as you will.
Okay.
My first question to you is, how did you get through all of that?
My father growing up, he was very lesson. He will give you things he can take from a red cup, the red cup, but then he'll give you a lesson out of the red cup. I think everything that he placed inside of me, I used it to overcome it. And what I mean by that is, even though I knew that I was never going to go back to him, the day that he raised his hand on me while our two children were still fighting for their life, I knew then that this man was not going to change. It was nothing that I did. This man was just crazy. He had issues that he needed to deal with. It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So how it helped me is that the stuff that my dad placed inside of me, I started to use it in my life, not knowing that I was using it, but it started to, come back to me what he had really placed in me, because my father was a father that he would say, a man should always respect his wife. Yeah. A man should always, show love than hate. And so it helped me. It helped me throughout being broken. I just felt like I was never going to get back, but, just surrounding myself with people like you can overcome it. You can, just push through it. And having, support, my mom, my family, my sister, my brothers, they were really, like you use it one day for a good purpose. It will be something that you'll help somebody, even though I'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever, one day, whatever. And then I met my husband now. He's my angel sent from heaven. Yeah. But he saw me broken. When he knew my story, because I know, of course, Amarillo is not a big city, but when he saw me, he saw the potential that I had. He saw it in me that I didn't see myself. And he will always tell me, your story can help someone. And I look at him like, you don't understand. He's like, no, you need to understand. when you overcome this, you're going to be able to. And he's the one that told me, you will be the key to someone else's breakthrough. And I looked at it like, ooh, like whatever, you don't know me. You don't know my pain. And he was like, I don't know your pain, but I know what your pain can help. Once you overcome that, you can help someone else. Baby steps, of course, I always fell back, like my past, my excuses, my hurt and stuff. But then I had to realize that I was not living. I was still living in 1995, 1994, 93, all that pain. I could not give it no more power.
Yeah.
So I had to get my life back. And it's when I stepped into, and I was like, okay, God, rebuild me, redo me, do what you have to do. And it's something that I will never erase. I wish I could, but it's my past. It's there. It no longer has control over me. Yeah. So yeah.
Now, I've told you, I don't know how in the world you were walking around sane and looking this fly, because I literally, having going through, I feel like we all go through things, of course, and everything is, I've been through some tough stuff, but I don't know that I would have been, that's how you know your strength, because there's no way, I told you I'd be walking around homeless with one tooth and 0 mind left.
Right.
With that said, how did you cope through losing your children, readjusting, and I guess getting through a whole life, and now having this one child who miraculously made it after 6 months in the hospital, to be able to be there for her and still grieve your other 3?
The day that she was in ICU and they were talking about taking her off of life support, I asked God, if you, I looked out a window and I said, if you're out there, you're real, I need you. And my daughter flatlined. But then, so here I am thinking like, oh, she's dead. So I already knew that if she left me, I already had prepared that I was going to take my life. I just knew that. I had it prepared. I had it, I don't know where I'm going to do it, but I know I'm taking my life if she leaves. And I remember her, doctors, nurses and stuff running in there calling the doctor. And, the doctor's like, well, what is her rate? Do we need to do anything? As they talking, you hear a little voice, saying, I want some water.
Wow.
And, I was like, okay, she couldn't see very well because, being under a coma for a while does mess with your eyesight. She couldn't walk. And so they told me she would never be able to see. It would be, if she did, she was going to have real bad vision, walk. It would be lucky, if she would walk. Probably won't be able to have kids. But she did the opposite of that. Seeing her overcome that she's able to see, she's able to walk, gave me a little, gave me that strength. Like, okay, if God can do that, can he do it for me? Because this is a child that don't know, what happened. She's 3 years old, woke up and she don't know what's going on. I'm like, there's someone out there that can help me,
but
yes, but God, I was angry at God. I'm not going to keep it here perfect. Like, I was just,
No, we want
God.
The real. That's what Heart of the Matter is about.
Like, oh God, no, I was angry at him because I was like, you could have stopped it.
Yeah.
And, who said he didn't, it's like, you could have stopped it. You could have stopped this. And God gives us signs. Don't go left, go right. But here we are trying to do where we think it's supposed to be.
Right.
And, the enemy takes advantage of, okay, well, you went left. So here it is, Lord. You're coming this way. So I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And, when people have evil, they're evil. Like my ex, there's nothing you can do, when they're gone and totally lost, to the devil. I call it that because that's what it was. That's where I was living. But God helped me, even though I turned my back on him, he never turned his back on me. So,
Of course, I'm thinking about what you shared about what your ex said to you at the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if you'll share that, and then, of course, kind of expound on how you, with all of having endured all of that and just the mental breakdown that he took you through as far as just breaking down your self-esteem and making you feel like and saying to you that you're my property. How did you build your self-esteem and all of that back up? But of course, I want to go back to just the funeral.
We were at the cemetery and I was crying, because that's my children.
Yeah.
My last time seeing them, holding them, and he leans over, he grabs me and he leans over and he says, "I think you've cried enough." He's trying to get on my nerves.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there looking down and I'm like, and to be honest with you, I felt like I really didn't really get to grieve. I guess you can say like grieve.
Yeah.
Because, I'm hearing him like, okay, like he's telling me to shut up. Okay, I'll do it. But to really, really grieve, I'm going to say that I really just laid out and just like, whoa, was probably in 1999.
Wow.
Yeah, when I really, really just, because I guess from him telling me that and then my daughter coming out of the coma, focusing my all on her, I did not have time to grieve. I had to bounce back. Okay, she needs me. Okay, I have to be here 100%. I have to give her all I have. I don't have time to grieve. And not knowing, you do have time to grieve anytime, but I guess I really didn't want to face it.
Gotcha.
You can really say that. I really didn't want to face it. I just did. So I made excuses of why should I not, grieve. I turned to alcohol so that I could not feel the pain, but I did not become an alcoholic. I did want to lose my mind, but I didn't lose it. So I did try to commit suicide. It didn't work, so God was just kind of blocking everything that I was trying to do. Like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
But that's what he had said to me. So I kind of like sucked it up, like, like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm still asking him to forgive me. I'm sorry. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I crying?
Were there ever moments that you wished you could have killed him?
Yeah.
Look, we keep it real here.
Yes.
So
Actually, to be honest with you, he went to prison and he got out. My daughter wanted to go see him. And when we got I filed a divorce and everything, of course, it was something where he had visitation rights because nothing was, he was in charge with anything. So her life was not in danger. So I was like, oh, okay, and stuff. So the thing about it is that he never paid for her to come. It was always me and my husband, Dennis, that will pay for her to go see him because we didn't want her to turn around and say, well, you didn't let me.
Right.
I didn't want her to use that against me. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll take you. Okay, I'll fly you in. But for her to return, so we paid for her to go and for her to come back. So I knew I had to face him that day, when I was dropping her off. And I was like, man, God, if you can just make me a man for one day. Just a man for one day, Lord. And then after that, you can just put me back as a woman. But if you can just give me the strength of a man or make me a man for one day so I can just beat him down like he did me.
Wow. So
I can hurt him like he hurt me. So I can just destroy him like he destroyed me. If you can just make me a man for one day or the strength. Because if you move forward, that's the biggest hurt. Because he no longer has control over me.
Yeah.
So I was like,
that's huge.
Okay, God, whatever.
That's fine. Listen.
But I want to see some evidence, But no, I did. I was just, when I seen him, I was just like, God, if I just grab this right here and just hit you upside your head, just one time, But I just, I said no.
What advice would today's Liz give the old Liz that was in that situation, or to someone who may be going through something similar?
I would give the old Liz advice of the signs. If she could have seen the signs first to talk, if, not that I'm blaming my parents, but if they would have just talked to me, instead of showing me what relationships are supposed to be, instead of showing me, but then this can happen, then I would have known the signs of teen dating abuse. Mm. So why would I say to people out there, talk to your teenagers, to your young ones from 6th grade up, what teen dating abuse is. Because, some states believe that if because of their age, it's not abuse. So they don't have no trespassing, they don't have laws. But in the state of Texas, teen dating abuse is serious. Yeah. You claim it, they're going to get charged. So what I would say to her is, to anybody, is to talk to your teenagers about teen dating abuse, what it is. It's controlling. If they are constantly checking your phone, every time that person comes around, if you feel unsafe, that's a sign. If they constantly want to be with you, or if you even go out with your family, they start to trip, that's a sign. You'll know, parents know, because my father knew he just had this little feeling about him, and he's like, he's just not good for you. Yeah. I would tell the old Liz, to walk the other way, to let the other girls have them, if I could. Yeah. But to be honest with you, that's a hard question. And the reason I say that is because the lives that I have changed now. Yeah. Would I change that? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like I would to save my kids, but I've saved so many lives. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. And huge.
Yeah.
Huge. So what did you learn about yourself going through this process and through this journey?
That I am strong. I'm stronger than what I thought I was. Yeah. I've learned that I am not the words that he said. I am bigger, that God created me to be someone. Yeah. To be great. I'm not less than. I'm not beneath anybody. I am not God's waste, because he told me God wasted his time on me. I'm not God's waste. Yeah. I was made with every detailed, I'm powerful.
You are. You really are. You are. I was telling Liz, I think it's so amazing. I've been around her, and I met her a couple of times, and we, even hung out, but I never, hearing her story, I literally was like, my mouth was open and I was crying off and on. Actually, it just wrecked me the whole entire day. I'm in awe of her, because, you can see somebody and then, they have something about them, but then when you hear their story, you'll be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. But with her, I was just like, wait, what? Like, she looks nothing, and not only looks, but just is. She's just so strong and caring and giving, and I just love, like, her friend personality. I don't even have the words. I really don't. She's phenomenal and definitely a gift from God. And I want to end this interview with the words that you ended your speech in.
We have no excuses. I had the excuses. I had the excuses to be mad. I had the excuses to be angry. I had the excuses to take my life, to become an alcoholic. I had all those excuses. But there's no excuse of why you should not be able to, move forward, because you are responsible for someone else. You are responsible for somebody else's growth. So as long as you take that time of now stepping into your purpose, then you're holding them up, and it's taking them a longer time because they're waiting on you. So you have to overcome. You're set to be someone else's key to their breakthrough. So you have to just keep pushing, keep going, and you have no excuse. You don't have an excuse at all. You can't let your past be your present and your future. You have to leave it in the past. You can't go back. Like my father used to say, you only go back if you forgot someone, but you never go back. So it belongs in your past, and you got to move to your present, and you have to get ready for your future.
I love it. I love it. Y'all, do y'all see this woman? This is why I'm in awe of her. I'm just, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your story, and for everybody that you encourage. So if you have something that you found so amazing in Liz's story, or something that spoke to you, I want to definitely start the conversation. Please leave it in the comment section below. Myself and Liz will be coming back and responding to your comments. If you want to find out about the S.T.A.N.D Organization, I'm going to allow Liz to tell you where to find her website, her organization, where you can find her on social media, all of those things. And definitely stay tuned for her book that is coming out soon. I cannot wait. So Liz, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and your site.
Sure. You can find me on Facebook, Elizabeth Navarette Savage. That's Elizabeth.
Sorry, let me. I'm jealous of her accent. Don't mind me. Y'all pay attention to her.
That's Elizabeth, N-A-V as in Victor, A-R-R-E-T-E, Savage. Yes, Savage. I'm the real Savage.
Navarette. Did I say it right?
Yes, Navarette. On Facebook, S.T.A.N.D. That's capital letters, periods in between the letters, S.T.A.N.D Organization. You can find us on Instagram, EP Savage, Stand DB in Instagram, and we're also on Twitter. The same way, S.T.A.N.D Organization.
Awesome. House of Swag partnered with the Tamron Renate Fund, which was dedicated and named after her sister, who passed away as a victim of domestic violence. I will also include that link and make sure that you go and support, because that is helping her to create a safe place for domestic violence victims, as well as the S.T.A.N.D Organization. So if you are in a domestic violence situation, what advice would you give that person?
Leave. Seek help. There's a lot of help out there. Leave. They're not going to change. You can't change them. They probably constantly telling you, I'll change. I'm sorry. But the thing is, one time was too many.
Yeah.
So leave.
See you. Thank you so much for joining us here on another episode of Heart of the Matter. Please leave in the comment section below anything that you connected with, and also if you have any feedback on the show. If you want to see more stories like this one, definitely leave it in the comment section below. Stay tuned. Every Friday we will be back with another episode of Heart of the Matter, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Until next time, I will see you soon. Follow me on Instagram at Tia Kirby. That's TIAKIRBY. And everywhere else, Facebook, Twitter, all of those places, you can find me as Tia Kirby. Until next time, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.